pleased to present to you today a new part of our overall local union's efforts on safety that we're calling our Steelworkers Survival Toolkit. It's a production that was developed by, funded by, and is going to be given to you by steelworkers for steelworkers. Unfortunately, there are 4 places in this plant that I can't get out of my mind. The cast floor and railing in the steelmaking department, the rail stacks at the heat treat, the mast hole in 207 furnace, and the jack stand pit down the pipe mill. These are the places where Kyle Lehu, Lester Smeltz, Jim Jones, and now Donnie Lawrence met their untimely deaths in our industrial workplace. It was my unfortunate duty to represent our local union at the funerals of these fine men. And I wasn't just touched by the sadness and the families, but in particular, it's hard to take the children, the young children who won't have their fathers, who simply won't have that paternal guidance, who simply won't have that double parent stability that is their birthright. The mill, the machinery, the deaths have robbed these children of their birthright. It's extremely frustrating for all of us, I think, to have to endure a 4th death in 4 years, particularly since so much time, effort, and money has been poured into the safety effort here at Steelton. And we know it's far beyond what's being done at any other Bethlehem facility and far beyond anything we know going on in the basic steel industry itself. Those efforts should not be diminished because those efforts have proven a dramatic drop in the number of injuries and accidents that are happening in our plant. However, safety, like any of our union missions, is something that we can never rest on. We must never be satisfied. We must constantly be looking to improve. In this particular case, it is so clear that what we're doing in safety now has not stopped the fatalities at our plant. And so we have to put a special focus on exactly what it is that's causing our people to die, and we must find the solution to end these deaths forever. It's a carnage that should not happen and cannot go on. In search of this special focus, our local union has talked for hours with our members, our officers, our safety teams. We've discussed things with our International Union Safety and Health Department and our district safety coordinators. And we've pulled up the statistics and the facts. And we now know who died, when they died, where they died, and most importantly, why they died. The facts show us a very simple set of general causes for this total group of accidents. We have 4 men who have died out of 21 total people who have died in the industry over the last 4 years. We as a corporation in Bethlehem Steel own 14 of those 21 deaths. We have pulled out those causes and put them into a specific package of very simple and common sense practices at work that we're going to present to you as a toolkit. Tools that you can use every day when you assess a job to hopefully not end up as those 21 other brothers and sisters have in the last 4 years. In our discussions and in our search for a new program, we also found it to be critically important that this particular effort avoid the resentment and cynicism that sometimes comes from when a supervisor preaches at us on safety, or even when our joint safety teams come down with a new corporate program. This one's all union, so that you understand that we're giving you tools as a gift from steelworker to steelworker. There is no mandate from the corporation. There's absolutely no discipline attached. What we have here is a group of people who you have elected, who will put together a presentation with your dues money for the sole purpose of hoping that you take it and you live. No strings attached.
The International Union's Safety, Health, and Environment Department has worked hard to help local unions eliminate unnecessary accidents. We have done this by assisting in contract negotiations, addressing safety and health issues, developing training programs and materials, and many other services. We know from experience these efforts are vitally important in preventing occupational injury and illnesses. We also know the hardest part of putting any program together is gathering the statistics. It used to be that the only way we knew when a death occurred in a workplace was if the local union notified us or if we read about it in the newspaper. But in the 1980s, we negotiated with many industries, including Basic Steel, a requirement that companies must immediately notify our department whenever there was a fatality at any of its plants. Since that time, over 160 deaths have been reported in steel plants alone, and that includes only the 10 largest steel companies. For the first 7 or 8 years, Bethlehem Steel had a fatality rate similar to other big steel companies like USX and LTV. In the last 3 years, the fatality rate in all other companies have dropped, but Bethlehem's has increased. Since 1988, there have been 14 fatalities at Bethlehem Steel as opposed to 10 at all other companies combined. Even though your local union and the plant management has a good safety and health program in place, 4 of the 14 deaths at Bethlehem Steel have been at Steelton. Your president, Ike Gitlin, has asked me to look at the causes of these fatalities. The results are the basis of your local union's new safety program, Safety Survival Toolbox. There have been 43 fatalities in Bethlehem Steel since August 1st, 1980. 20 were in production jobs, 18 were in maintenance, and 5 were in transportation. 61% of all fatalities were workers over 45 years of age. Many had over 20 years of service with the company. Maintenance workers and older workers, even with plenty of experience, are at higher risk. Over 30% of the fatalities at Bethlehem are caused by being caught between or struck by equipment that runs on rails, such as trains or cranes. The next leading cause of death are falls and burns. Together, they account for 35% of all fatalities. The fourth leading cause is from failing to lock out equipment. The last accident occurred at your plant in January of 1991. These 4 areas are the focus of this safety awareness program. Always watch out for moving equipment, especially equipment that runs on rails. Falls and burns will always be hazards in steel plants. Be careful when you're climbing or working around molten metal and flammable materials. Also, always lock out and bleed any stored energy on any equipment that must be worked on, no matter how little time the job will take. This is your safety survival toolbox. It is intended to increase your awareness of life-threatening hazards each and every minute you are on the job. It should be used in conjunction with other safety programs your local has in place. And remember, should you encounter an unsafe condition, notify your local union safety and health committee. They are there to help.
Frank Rhymes has clearly outlined the simple common sense tools in our new Safety Survival Toolbox. It is a way to focus on key safety principles. It is a shop floor guide to staying alive. As Safety Committee Chairman, it is my responsibility to improve our safety effort. But I can't personally make each of you safe. I can help you understand how to be safe. Only you can make the Safety Survival Toolbox project a success, because you have to choose to use its principles. I don't want to see any of you become our next statistic. The Safety Survival Toolbox project was developed from intense discussions with union members and contains your ideas and your suggestions. Listen for a few minutes to the voices of our co-workers as they talk about safety at our Steelton plant.
We have a room in the back of our shop called the cooker room. It has caustic soda in it. And before, when you went in, you wore gloves and a coat and your hard hat and shoes. Well, since the accident, we come up with rain gear, rubber gloves, and a face shield. I think if I'd have been wearing the face shield, I wouldn't have spent 2 days in the hospital blind. And when you're in the mill and you see something that you think you can make safer, don't be afraid to come up to somebody and try to get your point across to get the extra safety equipment that's needed.
Here I was involved in a near fatal in steelmaking here about 2.5 years ago. They put about 4 tons of molten metal down on the machine I was driving underneath the furnace as I was removing slag. They had started a new process of adding oxygen to the first during the first bucket on the melt, and eventually they changed that process and did not put the oxygen in the furnace after the near fatal with me.
We have seen that a simple lockout tag, a spotter to when you're doing something, the flick of a switch to turn on a down light was all it took for that fellow worker to wash his hands and go home for the day. But because that wasn't done, he didn't go home.
What I would like to stress today is the importance of keeping safety minded at all times. Over the period of time, we tend to drift away from the safety conscious atmosphere. Every time this happens, the end result will be an accident or a fatality.
And it's very important to lock and tag equipment because in our situation, you can't make a mistake. If you make a mistake, you're dead.
The accident potential is always there. You have to pre-plan your jobs. A lot of this has fallen by the wayside because of the interest of getting the job done quick to save the company money so that we save our jobs. And I feel that's one of the major issues. Dave?
My name's Dave Ward. I work at 20-inch mill. I've been a member of the safety team for 2 years. I think the reason for a lot of injuries down there is the shift of new employees from one department to the other without them being skilled at the job that they're sent there to perform.
And I was down in there along the track, and the roof was retracting, and I never heard it. And it came right along, cut the collar on my neck, but it didn't touch my neck. So that really sold me on the locks and tags, because I could have had my head cut off.
I'm Ed Treckler from the Rail Mill Electric and also on the safety team. We like to go and have co-workers look out for one another. If you see an unsafe condition being caused by a fellow worker, tell him about it. Because if you don't, you may be the first one at an accident scene, and it's not a pretty sight to see.
I was involved in an accident down in the open hearth where I was hit in the face with lime and I lost my sight. It happened just, taking a lime pipe apart, something, we've done for hundreds of times. And, we expect that, nothing's going to happen. We just take it apart and drop it.
So it was like being a single parent and a mother to him because he couldn't do anything. He could get around the house, but if you went anywhere, you had to lead him by the hand. You couldn't let him alone by himself because you didn't know what would happen. Plus, still run kids to all their activities. It not only affected him and his workers, it affected us too.
All right, what do you guys feel is a major problem in your area that the workers have some control over? Jerry?
I work in motor truck and vehicles, and things up, they won't check the vehicles out, and we have our roads in the plant are fairly narrow, and we tend to drive too fast.
Jack and Gene, you two guys work all over the plant. Is there a problem that seems to be everywhere that we may be able to control?
Well, I work with a friend of mine who I thought he was, a friend of him. I worked with him. Last year he died in a fall. And I worked with him that same day in the same job. And I always said that I would never do nothing unsafe as long as I worked in that plant. Well, that lasted about 6 months. And I find myself falling back into where commonplace. And I'm doing stuff unsafe, and I shouldn't be doing.
That seems to be a problem with everybody, too. Everybody feels that if they did it once or twice, and maybe the third time it won't happen. But the third or fourth time is usually when something bad happens. It's a shame you have to have a fatality like that to refresh your memory on safety, but until we...
Our joint safety effort with the company will continue to make tremendous progress on the safety issues of the plant. But this particular Steelworkers Survival Toolkit is designed to focus in on workplace fatalities and learn from them. We have drawn this kit exactly from the experiences of those of our brothers and sisters that have died across the industry. Some of those could have been prevented, others not. But we're hopeful that you keep that uppermost in your mind. The reality is we are up against $350 million worth of industrial equipment every day. It's an industrial battleground. We hope that you can take our toolbox and use these tools to help you survive. It's our gift to you, and we hope you use it constantly. Good luck.